Torg. So we have the Darkhold Kick crowdfunding, which just started yesterday. We've got 242 backers. We've raised 55,000, which is, beyond what we asked for. The initial goal was 20,000, and so we've been kind of steadily knocking down our goals. The next one, let's see. Today we've got. I think we're doing a Q&A today at 3 Pacific. I think Eric will do an update about that, but that should be coming around 3 Pacific. We'll see probably Daryl and Deanna talking about Tharkold. If you've not checked it out yet, you can go to gameontabletop.com and search for Tharkold, or look on any of our social media and website. So we've knocked down the zone map, which will be included for everybody that ordered the vault, and then everybody else will get PDFs. We've got a PDF. We've got a Q&A that's happening today. Looks like we already knocked down the Thrachin bookmark that people will get with the vault. There'll be another Q&A about major players of the world. We're doing threat blips and threat cards. We're pretty close. We're about 15,000 from another common threats of Q&A. And then we still got the poster. So definitely a lot of stretch goals to knock down, but we can do it with your help. If you did not get, if you missed some of the past crowdfundings, you can get the boxes for those as well, the cargo box and the survival box and the sarcophagus, all these things. You can get all those if you missed them. And this is kind of your best opportunity to get them. You have the cheapest shipping and whatnot. There's limited leather edition, which I think this one looks really nice. I really like the silver color here, and the gold looks nice together. And here's the Tharkoldi vault. So very cool. So you can see some of the pictures of the art on the left-hand side of your screen. That's all Tharkold art. So check that out. As we go through, we are going to read the Nile Empire, which is why you've got this music going on right now. This music is from the Fires of Ra soundtrack, which is the Torg Eternity Nile Empire soundtrack. So let's get back over here, looking at day one. So we've already done. We did the Living Land. We did Isle. We did Pan Pacifica. We did Tharkold a little while ago because I wanted to highlight that first. So now we still got the Nile Empire, Cyber Papacy, and Orash to read through. I've really enjoyed reading these adventures. I'm kind of learning the system, and so each adventure, gives you more and more details of the system and in the world. So I've been enjoying it. One of the things that all of the adventures do is they give you some characters that are what are called ords, so ordinary characters. Once you have a moment of crisis, once a character has a moment of crisis, they become a storm knight, and they are able to use additional powers and abilities and perks and everything. So everything that's here, that's in a bracket, in a square bracket, you get when you become a storm knight. And these characters are the characters that are for use for this adventure. You can go onto our website at ulysses-us.com and get these as full character sheets for a free download if you go into our download section. So let's get into it. Let's see who wrote this one. This was by Dean Gilbert. So a group of tourists and workers are at the pyramids of Giza when the Nile Empire's Maelstrom Bridge descends from the sky, crushing the visitor center and unleashing a horde of goose-stepping invaders upon the site. The attackers eventually drive the heroes underground into a network of tunnels that shouldn't exist. The tunnels lead back to the Great Pyramid of Khafre, but they're riddled with death traps, puzzles, and stone guardians animated by the magic of the place. At the center of a network, a giant stone scorpion protects a golden scroll that contains some answers to what's happening, if anyone can read it. By the time the explorers emerge from the pyramid, night is falling. The strange stone portal is gone, but some villains and troopers remain behind, searching for the scroll and the Storm Knights. They're holding their tourists hostage, and it's up to the heroes to escape to Cairo with the scroll and anyone they can rescue. Sorry, there's kids outside and my dogs are going crazy. So sorry if you can hear that in the background. Scene 1. The Sands of Giza. Standard scene. The characters are all at the site of the pyramids of Giza. Some are there strictly as tourists, others work as tour guides or police. They're currently on the walkway between the Great Sphinx and the Pyramid of Khafre, just parallel with the Pyramid of Khufu. Seeing the sights. The majority of the crowds are still congregating down at the visitor center, the Sphinx, or across the plateau at Khufu. The group traveling with the heroes is closer to Khafre and is relatively small. Marta Jones. Marta is here on a once-in-a-lifetime trip with her son Mo. Her husband fell ill and is back at the hotel in Cairo. Marta is more nervous than excited at this point. Between her husband's illness and the communications blackout affecting most of her home in the United States, Marta herself is high-strung, with brown frizzy hair and a nervous demeanor. A hooded cobra prepares to strike. Quote, "Please try not to talk about what's going on in America in front of my son. He's sensitive." Moses Mo Jones. Mo is a young boy of 10, but he's short for his age and looks even younger. He's extremely shy and would be hiding behind his mother or playing a handheld video game if he wasn't so completely enthralled with the pyramids. I'm not supposed to talk to strangers. This is quote. Jessie Carmel. Jessie is a minor celebrity back in the United States. Just ask her. She has bleach blonde hair and immaculate makeup and seems disappointed that neither the Jones family nor the heroes has heard of her. Yeah, I'm kind of a big deal back in the real world. Halil bin Masad. Halil is a student from Saudi Arabia. He's the same age as Yava and the kid, if either is in play, and tries to tag along with either if they let him. He is shy. He has a shy smile and a quiet voice. He isn't careful about hiding that he comes from a wealthy family, as evidenced by his expensive clothing and gear. Quote, "What a splendid sight and a beautiful day." The bridge lands. When the scene is set and the characters have time to introduce themselves to the other individuals in their group, read the following aloud. You hear a crack of thunder and look up. On the other side of the Pyramid of Khafre, you see a strange-looking storm develop suddenly. It's the only cloud in the sky. Others in your group mutter at the strange sight as the storm cloud grows. It's the wrong time of year for thunderstorms to happen, and besides, it's supposed to be clear and hot for days. The crowd gasps as they witness the impossible. A wide, twisting sandstone column drops down from the spreading storm clouds like a vortex. It tilts and arches downwards, slamming into the visitor center and crushing it flat. You see a flash from the point of impact, feel the shockwave like a thunderclap, and smell an odd odor like ozone. You grow dizzy for a moment, and then all around you things begin to shift. The ruins shimmer and change. The nearby walls of the southern cemetery are now adorned with billowing tapestries, covering fresh inscriptions and hieroglyphics. The stone is no longer crumbling, and the intact structures form a thick maze of buildings, some gleaming with gold plating. The pyramids, just moments ago looked like ancient structures, are now smooth, painted white, and capped with gold. The whole world seems to shake with a rhythm pounding like the fall of milling marching feet stepping in time. The Nile Empire's world laws and axioms are in effect. Deal each player a Cosm card. Transformations. It's not only the ruins and distant vehicles that are changing, some of the people are affected as well. Mo transforms while holding his mother's hand. His clothes begin to change to those fitting a boy in the late 1930s. Trousers, a blazer, and a tie. His gamepad becomes a slingshot. Marta remains under court with axioms and begins to panic and scream. A persuasion test calms her down, but otherwise she remains hysterical and oblivious to other dangers brewing. Jessie swoons demurely, and her clothing forms into tight-fitting slinky dress. Her hairstyle changes to the curled coif of a golden age movie star, and anyone who examines her discovers she's now a natural blonde. Her memories are scrambled, and her personality has shifted from slightly vapid to completely selfish. She plays dumb or vamps to get protection from the heroes, but she's just waiting to latch on to someone stronger. A cobra strikes. Any character who isn't engrossed in the sudden transformations notices a new danger. A very large cobra slithers out of the nearby rocks and prepares to strike Halil. If warned, the unfortunate youth merely stumbles back in surprise and falls to the ground, still in danger. A quick-thinking do-gooder can attack the snake. Most slingshot is available as a weapon, or distract and stymie it with an interaction. Taking direct action against the dangerous creature could fuel a moment of crisis. Egyptian cobra. This 2-meter specimen is unusually large. Cobras are uncommon in the plateau. The snake's hood flares while it menaces tourists with a deadly bite. Small, it's got a bite and some venom. Items and transformations. While most people transform to a new reality, their clothing and items likewise convert into some equivalent applicable to the new reality. Everything they wear or carry is what they would have if they had lived their entire life in the invading reality. For Ords, this transition takes time, usually 10 to 20 seconds, and leaves the individual confused and in shock. A Storm Knight transcending, however, is nearly instantaneous and may happen as she takes the triggering action. That means she can spend possibilities to add dice to the outcome, or employ powers or items that didn't exist when she started the act, which led to transcendence. When possible, alert the player to these new options immediately as a Storm Knight transforms. Strafing run. The pillar that dropped from the sky twists like a braid, and troops and vehicles rumbled down the sides in a defiance of gravity. The constant pulse of thousands of feet marching in time grows louder as the columns near the base. Strange fighter planes skim along the structure and then break off near the base to soar into the desert sky. Anyone who attempts to identify the planes must test find. Success determines they are single-engine prop fighters, roughly equivalent to those used during World War II. Their silhouettes don't match any known historical craft, but they are definitely armed. They have ankh markings on the sides and wings, and one has a crocodile jaws painted along its fuselage. The fighters split up and begin strafing Giza and the surrounding area with machine gun fire. One plane heads straight toward the touring group. The heroes have moments to act before its deadly guns begin to fire. The pilot fires his machine guns, damage 15 at the entire party. He regains +4 for rapid fire, or he gains +4 for rapid fire and +1 for dual weapon. Excuse me, 1 second. Sorry about that. My dog was going crazy at someone outside. Like some workers or something. So he gains +4 for rapid fire and +1 for the dual weapon mount to his heavy weapons, 8. But a -2 for range, or another -2 for each extra person he's strafing. Anyone looking for protection can run to make it to the southern cemetery, the structures of which provide concealment and cover. The other tourists are dodge sick and needs encouragement, a standard persuasion test, to reach cover in time. A character may use an interaction to stymie the plane or an active defense to dodge out of the way. Helping others first certainly triggers a moment of crisis. After a single pass, the fighter pulls up and rejoins the others flying east toward Cairo. The opponent fails destiny card, causes the attack to fail, thus missing everybody. Unstable ground. The pounding of the marching troops increases in volume and intensity. The ground shakes, and in some places across the plateau, buildings crumble and fall. Jessie made it into the southern cemetery to take cover whether she was helped or not. One of the slabs breaks loose and falls down toward her. Someone who hasn't had a moment of crisis is closest to her, and an easy DN8 dexterity test pushes her to safety in time. Otherwise, she's apparently crushed under the stone, and only resurfaces in scene 3, thanks to the law of drama. Goose-stepping hordes. Column after the column of troops march from the Maelstrom Bridge onto the sands of Giza. These men are shock troopers. They are bare-chested and wear the headdress and kilt style similar to ancient Egyptian warriors. The weapons they carry look more modern, like World War II submachine guns, and their belts and bandoliers are covered in bullets. They march heavily in perfect time, and the world trembles every time their sandaled feet stomp the ground. Above the throngs, a massive zeppelin with the same markings as the fighter planes float down from the bridge. Older-looking tanks rumble and clank between the columns of troopers. Most of the emerging army heads down directly eastward, following in the wake of the planes. But some take up defensive positions around the pillar's base, and squads break off from the main group and rush toward the pyramids, tombs, and the Sphinx. One group of soldiers heads directly toward the Storm Knights. A successful combined stealth test allows the heroes to ambush the patrol at close quarters inside the cemetery structures. Otherwise, the troopers open fire once inside short range. Kneel before the army of Pharaoh Mobius, they cry as they engage. Nile Empire shock troopers, 2 per hero. Interactions like trick and maneuver make knock down stone columns, eliminating enemies on an outstanding effect. This battle is also an opportunity for the Storm Knights to gain weapons from the fallen troopers, and possibly uniforms that may come in handy later. See, Padre, welcome, Padre. Padre says, I love that the Nile Empire is so over the top. Yeah, yeah, it's very cool. I love Egyptian stuff, and so this is sort of definitely right up my alley. The Pharaoh himself. Just as the Storm Knights dispatch the last of the patrol, a different kind of vehicle rolls out of the Maelstrom Bridge, an angular tank 3 times the size of the others. Banners string behind it, and atop its turret sits a cowled figure in an ornate golden throne. The heroes don't yet know his name, but this is High Lord Mobius. The hooded face turns to look directly toward the Storm Knights, and as he does so, another tremor shakes the plateau. The ground opens beneath the group's feet, and they tumble into the chasm below. Rocks and sand crash down around them as everything goes dark. Could this be the end? Scene 2, Khafre's Shadow. Standard scene. When the dust settles and the adventurers find themselves in an underground chamber, the other tourists who were with them didn't fall into the shaft. They are likely still on the surface and now in the invaders' clutches. Boulders and rocks have tumbled into the chasm above and filled in the passage completely. The whole mass shifts occasionally, causing rocky sand to tumble onto the floor. A major shift might collapse the chamber. There is no light. Characters still connected to core Earth have working flashlight apps on their phones, and those who transform discover an older style flashlight or walkie-talkie in place of their smartphone. A quick look around determines that this is not a natural cave. The Storm Knights have landed in. It's not a natural cave the Storm Knights have landed in. The walls are carved with ancient hieroglyphs, and there's a single hallway leading away into deeper darkness. A hard DN14 test against a scholar determines the writings are roughly from the time of the Pyramid of Khafre. The Pyramid of Khafre was constructed. The most common symbols are a scroll and scorpions of various sizes. The Egypt that never was. It isn't that these chambers and tunnels always existed under Giza and just happened to remain undiscovered. They didn't exist at all until the axiom wash from Mobius's Maelstrom Bridge transformed the area. The ancient Egypt of these transformations isn't like the Egypt of our Earth, and even the Egypt of Mobius's Terra. It's a unique amalgam infused with spiritual and magical energy. Secret treasure chambers and living gods unknown to both Storm Knights and the invaders spring up wherever the land transforms, which might benefit either side depending on who gets there first. The Chamber of Sands. The large chamber at the end of the passage has wide walls and a large doorway at the far end. The door itself is composed of 2 massive stone blocks pressed together. A seam is visible but too small to pry into, and requires a near impossible DN20 strength test to force apart even if leverage is gained. The sandstone walls of the chamber are gloriously painted with colorful murals featuring robbers being eaten alive by thousands of scorpions. The high ceiling is painted with lines of priests, each carrying a quill. They march into the Pyramid of Khafre. A gigantic scorpion looms over the pyramid, and the priests and a golden scroll floats above its head. At the midpoint of each side wall is a lever shaped like a scorpion stinger. Pulling the lever is a challenging DN12 strength test. Once pulled, the door slab on that side retracts, but as one block moves, the others slide forward to fill the empty space. Only when both levers are pulled simultaneously do both slabs retract at once, opening the way to a new passage beyond. I know these are kind of supposed to be like Anubis sort of heads, but just from this angle, this one kind of looks like Batman. It's like an Egyptian Batman. It's funny because you can see here the more it's like a dog head there, like the Anubis head. Pretty cool. Ooh, look at a bunch of scorpions coming out. The stone automatons that protect Khafre from intruders are dangerous despite their small size. The last two people who remain behind to hold the levers must make a standard DN8 dexterity test to leap through the closing doors before they slam shut. If only one of the two makes it, the other appears to be trapped forever, but actually reappears later in the scene thanks to the law of drama. The infested maze. The explorers have no time to rest once they are through the doorway. A scratching sound at the walls alerts them that something is coming, while ahead dark passages wind in different directions like a maze. This is a chase against the stone scorpion swarm that's starting to pour out into the passageway. Each side tests dexterity to gain steps. The scorpion swarms move mindlessly forward to fill the corridors and rend the flesh of any creatures in an area they have overrun. If a step is available when the swarm acts, it attempts to advance, but it only ever attempts one step per action. If no step is available, the storm swarms a single maneuver interaction against all the heroes, no multi-target penalty, hoping to stymie them or drop them back a step on a player's call result. Any character on the same step or lower suffers the swarm's damage automatically at the beginning of each turn. Once a runner completes step D, they pass into the pyramid itself, and the swarm doesn't pursue any further. If the swarm completes step D, any hero who hasn't already escaped is engulfed and presumed slain until the end of the scene. Dilemmas. In this chase usually represent dead-end corridors, getting lost, or passages that constrict into crawl spaces. Stone scorpion swarm. Each scorpion is a stone about the size of a fist, carved with legs, pinchers, and stingers, all wrapped tightly against their shells. Slowly, some of the statues begin to uncurl and move. They have some armor, and they can engulf. They're mindless, relentless, and a swarm. The chamber of the scroll. The maze ends in stairs rising up into a spacious antechamber. This is well lit by torches, circled by rough pillars, and has a high vaulted ceiling. In the center of the chamber, a huge shape shifts the giant scorpion of the murals. Built into a brace atop its head is a golden scroll case. There is no visible exit from the chamber at ground level, but there is a shaft at the top of the peak ceiling leading upward. It can be reached by climbing the walls and pillars. Unfortunately, the giant scorpion moves to sting or claw anyone who attempts such a climb. The scorpion statue is nearly indestructible by conventional means, but it has an intentional weakness. If the scroll can be snatched from the holder on its head, it immediately crumbles into sand. Hint at the creature's weakness by having it raise its claws protectively to cover the scroll when anyone attempts an interaction. An idea or an alertness card reveals this weakness immediately. A player's call interaction accomplishes this, likely with a maneuver or a trick. Either could work if the action makes sense. An outstanding attempt to grapple with a called shot to the scroll -4 also grabs the scroll. The scroll itself is indecipherable without weeks of work, but based on a cursory examination, it seems to contain the locations of other artifacts and tombs across transformed Egypt. Giant stone scorpion. This limestone statue is immense and threatening, all spiky, segmented armor, arachnid legs, vicious claws, and a menacing stinger with a point like a sword. Looks like it's mindless, relentless, and very large. Whoa, 10 meters long. The shaft. When the scroll is gained, the giant scorpion and all of its smaller brethren in the other chambers fall to pieces. At this point, any heroes who were apparently slain in previous chambers crawl into the chamber or shaft from tight adjoining tunnels and may describe their narrow escapes from death. It's a long, slow climb up the tunnel, but it's relatively safe thanks to the many handholds and outcroppings along the way. There's a large stone blocking the top of the shaft, but a good hearty shove topples it out of the way to let fading sunlight and fresh air wash over the emerging survivors. The Storm Knights have regained the surface, but where are they, and what dangers still await them there? Scene 3, Escape from Giza. Dramatic scene. The shaft emerges about halfway up the side of Khafre's pyramid. The block the Storm Knights dislodged looks the same as the other large blocks that form the surface of the pyramid. From this high up, they have a good view of the entire plateau, and no guards spot them. The sun is setting in the west, painting the entire site in an eerie red hue, indicating that the delvers were down below the pyramid for many hours. A large dust storm with violent lightning rages on the west, heading quickly toward Giza. Surprisingly, the massive sandstone maelstrom bridge is no longer present. In the far distance, in every direction, there are signs of the invaders' army on the move, mostly furrows and tracks from large numbers of tanks. Some forces remain at Giza, but only a few hundred men compared to the multitude that poured through earlier. The remaining forces have set up a base camp around the Sphinx and are spread between several outposts. The remaining tourists are tied up in this encampment, except for Jessie Carmel. She's carrying one of the invaders' submachine guns and is practically draped across a hooded figure who seems to be in charge of the camp. Halil and Marta make some kind of request to Jessie, but she merely laughs at them and tightens their bonds. Now it's up to the intruders to decide how to proceed. Likely, they have 3 objectives in mind. Escape from the Giza Plateau. They might be able to slip away during the storm under the cover of darkness. The outskirts of the city are very close, less than a kilometer away, but it still may take some time to get far enough through the city to lose pursuers. Stealing a vehicle dramatically increases the odds of reaching safety before they're caught. Free the hostages. The Jones family and Halil bin Musad are grateful if rescued. Even better, they overheard the invaders' conversations and warned their rescuers about the villain's powers as soon as possible. They know that Jessie has thrown in with the invaders and isn't in need of rescue. Keep Khafre's scroll out of Mobius's hands. The Storm Knights might simply destroy the scroll. There is no magical protection preventing it from burning or being torn to shreds. Remind the Storm Knights of the potential value of the artifact to any developing resistance movement. Enemy forces. The Storm Knights' position gives them a good look at the forces arrayed against them in the plateau. Vehicles. 1 Zeppelin hovers around the site on patrol. 2 tanks are on station, 1 parked at the entrance to Khafre, the other one at the entrance to Khufu's pyramid. A troop transport truck is parked in the main encampment near the Sphinx. Villains. There are 3 colorfully dressed villains among the troops of the main camp. Hooded Cobra wears an elaborate snake-themed costume. He's the one giving orders to other villains and regular soldiers. Another standout is a huge man wearing some stone boxing gloves. This is Brick Knuckle Bronco. The last is a stylish woman wearing a monocle. Lady Hourglass. Nice. Troopers. There are squads of 5 shock troopers spread across the site. 1 squad per hero is at the main camp, aboard the Zeppelin, and spread throughout each of the 3 cemeteries on patrol. Nile shock troopers see below, in groups of 5. Khepera tanks, troop transport, Zeppelin, and villains. Running the escape. The escape features many moving parts as a GM might need to handle, depending on what kind of plan the Storm Knights try to implement. Here are a few things that may come up. Sneaking. Moving from one area of the map to another is a stealth test. Nightfall and the coming storm act as a darkness penalty to the patrol's fine, so the target's slip past is only DN7, fine 9-2. Each character must test, and anyone who fails is spotted by a squad of patrolling shock troopers. When the villains act, they yell and fire weapons, which draws attention from all the other camps and bring two more squads into the conflict. Once the shooting starts, each group is roughly 300 meters away, so gunfire or explosions alert the entire camp that something is going on. The patrols in the area engage after 1 minute, 6 rounds. The tanks hold position and only fire if attacked or if no shock troopers are engaged with the intruders. The Zeppelin. The flying machine is on patrol and equipped with spotlights that eliminate darkness penalties if the heroes wait until night to attack. It moves into position to assist any embattled force after half a minute, 3 rounds. It drops down to only 5 meters above the ground, and half the shock trooper squads aboard slide down ropes into the fray. Those on the ground may likewise climb up these ropes to board the aircraft. Climbing a rope is a strength test DN 8, and success ascends 1 meter. A good success, 2 meters, and so on. Outstanding success climbs 3 meters. Once the storm gets close enough, the Zeppelin must break off and leave the area or attempt a very hard DN-16 air vehicles test each round to avoid being dashed to the ground and destroyed. Stealing tanks or trucks. Each tank has a crew of 3 shock troopers. The truck currently has no crew at all. All are military vehicles, so they don't require keys to start. A tank crew may button up, locking its hatches to prevent access from the outside. Buttoning up prevents the crew from using the machine gun turret on the top. Disguises. Shock troopers may come from all over the Empire, so any male character could pose as one of them without drawing attention. A persuasion test convinces soldiers the infiltrators are from a different battle group and just passing through. The DN is the fine skill of the targets they're trying to fool, so DN 8 for shock troopers. Battle groups aren't numbered, but rather named for their commander. The troops stationed here belong to Battle Group Cobra. Luring villains away. One possible tactic the raiders might try is splitting up to lure villains away from the captives. In general, the villains can't tell what's going on in the other locations, only that there is gunfire and trouble. Brick-Knuckle Branko races toward any sounds of battle. Lady Hourglass leaves at the same time but doesn't run, so it takes her 2 minutes to get anywhere. Hooded Cobra always remains in the main camp, searching orders and cajoling his forces. Screeching orders and cajoling his forces to engage. The ammunition dump. There's a pile of ammunition shells and other explosives at the main camp. Setting it off with a grenade or cannon shot causes damage 25 explosion across a huge blast area. That means up to 15 targets are affected by the blast, likely including at least one of the villains and the captured tourists unless they were removed from the area first. The sandstorm. A dangerous sandstorm arrives if the raiders really get into trouble, or if they specifically wait for it. Once it hits, stealth tests are no longer necessary to move from area to area. Visibility drops to around 50 meters, and even gunfire doesn't alert distant groups that others are under attack. The Zeppelin leaves the area or crashes. A setback blinds the side with the blistering sand for the round, causing a -6 penalty to any tests that require vision. The storm also wards off any pursuit and eliminates the escapees' tracks. There are many dangerous villains arrayed against the heroes, including 3 powerful stormers. The world laws of the Nile Empire actually give the Storm Knights a significant boost here. The Law of Heroism grants each of them an extra destiny card, and it's likely that once the fight starts, the heroes are ambushing the villains, which allows more of those cards to be played into the action pool immediately. The Law of Action allows a second possibility to be spent on any test, and the Storm Knight uses the better roll. Snappy one-liners, daring actions, and bold banter should all earn the heroes extra possibilities to really use this boon, and hopefully generate some outrageous totals. After Giza. How the insurgents proceed is entirely up to them. Depending on their approach, the group may get away cleanly or eliminate enough of the opposition to escape within the storm. Either way, they find allies in Cairo, building a resistance to the cruel invaders. If they try to take everything head on, they may find themselves overwhelmed. Any Storm Knight unfortunate enough to be captured is delivered to Cairo too, but into the waiting clutches of the insidious Wuhan. Epilogue. In the intervening weeks, the adventurers eventually take up full-time residence in Cairo. The tumultuous city becomes a hotbed of resistance to Pharaoh Mobius's forces. His main force didn't linger in the city, but left it under the care of the insidious Wuhan, one of his sadistic military governors. On the surface, Wuhan maintains control, but the city draws Storm Knights and troublemakers like a magnet. If the scroll of Khafre was recovered, the Storm Knights have just deciphered enough to pin down the exact location of one of the hidden treasures, noted when the news arrives of a visitor. He knows about the scroll and the role the characters played in its recovery or loss. This stranger introduces himself as Quinn Sebastian. He smiles. I'm with the Delphi Council, and we're doing everything we can to fight this Mobius fella and his kind everywhere they've landed. We need special people with abilities and the gumption to use them against the High Lords. Men and women who can succeed against impossible odds. Any of you know anyone like that? Nice. Here are the threats. Brick-Knuckle Bronco. Bronco is a giant of a man with massive arms, giant shoulders, and a polished bald head. An extravagant wax mustache extends well past his face, a clear point of pride. He wears athletic tights, laced boots, and stone gloves that look large even on him. Bronco speaks in a single-syllable words with vaguely Eastern European accent. Though evil, Bronco is a sportsman and tends to fight fairly. Quote, "I will crush you." Some perks: endurance, relentless, super attribute, strength +2, gadget, stone gloves. What did the stone gloves do? Oh, stone gloves, equipment, damage, strength +2, 16. Hooded Cobra. Hooded Cobra's attire is similar to that of the shock troopers he leads, but he wears a full leather jerkin. His headdress is larger and forms a mask over his face, and he carries strange-looking pistols he refers to as the Cobra Fangs. They're electro rays. His voice is shrill and tinged with madness. Quote, "Get them, you imbeciles!" Perks: he's got bolster, an electro ray. It's a short burst gadget. Requires both hands. Special abilities: diatribe. When Hooded Cobra rolls a mishap, he becomes very vulnerable, frothing ineffectively about how he is surrounded by fools. He's a gloater, and he's got minions. He can transfer any hit to a shock trooper within a few meters if he succeeds at a reality test. Nice. Lady Hourglass. Lady Hourglass dresses in a slinky and practical evening gown with an hourglass painted a pattern embroidered on the front and back. Her hair is wavy, long, and black. Over her right eye, she wears an odd monocle shaped like an hourglass. She constantly primps, vamps, and smirks. She has a particular loathing for damsels in distress and taunts them mercilessly for depending on some undependable man to rescue them. Quote, "Let's see if you're as useless as the rest." Perks: indomitable, some mind control. Use persuasion skill. It's from her monocle. Only works against men. Nice. Nile shock troopers. These bare-chested soldiers are well-trained and inclined toward evil. Cowards and the craven are cold and employed as guards or the subjects of experiments. Shock troopers wear leather skirts, headdresses, and various belts and holsters. The result is more ceremonial than protective. They got a club, no perks. One possibility. Vehicles, some transport trucks. PM1 Packet is a support and reconnaissance fighter armed with a wing-mounted 30 caliber machine guns. Its bent wings give it a striking silhouette. Standard Nile Empire pilots resemble shock troopers and with one add in air vehicles. The Kepler tank, the Nile Zeppelin. Nice. So that was the Nile Empire. That one kind of seems like it went a little quicker. It seems like there was more interaction, although definitely some spots for fights. But pretty cool. I like that. So let's go back and check out how we're doing on the crowdfunding. Looks like we're at 242. Oh no, there we go. 245, 56,800. So definitely check this out. Again, this is for the Torg Eternity Tharkold crowdfunding, which is right now on Game On Tabletop. It's on here for 21 days. It ends on July 11th, I believe. Sorry, July 14th. So definitely check that out if you are into Tharkold. All the images that we've been showing on the left-hand side of the screen there, they're all images from this Tharkold crowdfunding. So check that out. I'm gonna go camping this weekend, and I'm gonna be leaving tomorrow afternoon, and so I'm not gonna be here Friday, but I'm gonna see if I have time to try to record something to get it playing at the same time. Although it would probably be on YouTube. I'm not sure if I can do that on Twitch. I don't think I can yet because we're not like partnered or whatever. But I'll try to get it on YouTube, and it'll probably be, let's see, the Cyber Papacy. I would imagine it's the next one. So with that, I'm Robert Adichie for Ulisses Spiel at Ulisses International, and this has been Ulisses Grab Bag, and we'll see you on Friday, or you'll see me on Friday, and I'll chat with you on probably on Monday. All right, so talk to you later. Have a good day.